Hello, folks. Apologies for being a minute or two late. This is a new system we are trying today. This is called Webinar Ninja and is a little bit different to Zoom. So, if that's what you'd experienced before, if you're there, I'd love for you to drop a little comment in the chat just to let me know you're there. Let me know you can hear me, all the usual stuff. Hello, Ellie. How are you going? It's very exciting. There's Ashley too. Look, the whole crew are here. I'm very excited. Now, I'm imagining that you may be seeing something on your screen to do with a poll. Don't worry too much about it now. I'm hoping it's not blocking the screen too much or causing any disruption, but we'll give it a minute just to let everybody join us. And then, hi, Megan, how are you? And then we'll get started on all of this fun stuff. I'm really looking forward to it. Just while we are actually waiting for everybody, then I will just let you know that we are recording this. So if there's anything you miss or you really want to get on top of or want to go back to, then there will be a recording and you can take a look at that later. Hey, Catherine, how are you? Long time no see. Oh, there's some wonderful faces here. Very exciting stuff. All right. So we will give it one more minute. I hope you're all warm. You've got maybe your lunch in front of you. You're comfortable, but you're also ready for a bit of action. Oh, Sheila. Oh, no pressure. No pressure, Sheila. You're skipping the Self-Managed Super Fun Association Tech Day for this. Woohoo! I have to say, this has got to be more fun than that. And I'm hoping it's just as valuable. So thank you so much for joining us. All righty. Well, I think maybe, given we've only got a limited amount of time, I think we'll actually kick it off and get moving on our day. Well, if our day, let me not scare you, our sort of 45 minutes of getting into a little more adventures in life and maybe kicking that whole adulting kick to the curb. So let's get moving. Now, before we start, what I do want to do is I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that I'm actually standing on today, even though this is a virtual webinar. This is the Gadigal of the Eora Nation people, and I'd love to pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. This image here is, in fact, a beautiful bit of artwork by one of the Numina women who are actually up in sort of mid-Australia, sort of Northern Territory area, and their aunts, nieces, daughters, who have all got this particular style of beautiful Indigenous art, and I'd encourage you to check them out. This particular one, and I want to make sure I get this right, is Selena Numina Comprina. This piece of work is bush medicine and spinifex grass. That's really hard to say quickly. And when you get a copy of the slides, I'll actually include a link so you can check out more of this artwork because it is just amazing and well worth a look. Alrighty, so I also wanted to take a moment to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time, for actually spending, just under an hour with us, and also opening your mind to something that's a little bit different and maybe a little bit unusual, but I think could be really valuable for you. So thank you so much, and I have a great deal of gratitude for the sort of gift of time that you're giving me and the other attendees today. So we have a lot of ground to cover. Hold on to your hats, folks. I'm going to be moving through this pretty quickly, but like I mentioned at the beginning, you will have access to this recording. So don't panic if you feel like you missed something, you couldn't quite screenshot that list I had, then you will get a copy of the recording. You will also get access to a PDF of the slides. So you're not going to miss out. So deep breath and relax. So I figure we should get started, right? So what I'd like you to do, deep breath in and out. And I want you to just imagine that this was the type of photo that appeared in your phone reel regularly. In fact, it might even be constantly in your Instagram feed. Something exciting, fun. You and your family, you and your mates doing these wonderful, exciting and imaginative and adventurous things. Now imagine if you got to the 31st of December, the end of this year, and you could relive an amazing year, not a torturous one or a tough one, an amazing year full of loads of adventure and left with absolutely no regrets about what you did for the year. And imagine if on a day-to-day basis, you could feel motivated and energized about your week and your weekend. How would that feel if you could do that? How would that end of year, 31st of December feel? How good would that feel to have a year like that each and every year? The thing is that for many of us, that's not the case, right? I think for most of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, for most of us, we just feel worn out and worn down, right? And particularly in the current environment. And we feel actually like the proverbial hamster in the wheel, right? We're sort of just working, eating, sleeping, get up, working, eating, sleeping. And, we're sort of resigned to the fact that this is our lot. And we're just gone, all right, I'm a grown up, I'm just going to have to suck it up, right? And each day sort of feels the same as the next, which is pretty horrifying. We're simply thriving, we're not thriving, we're surviving, not thriving. And to be honest, it doesn't really feel like living. And I agree, Jenny, that's exactly what it feels like. We're really, really in the wheel. And of course, we're not even really getting anywhere, which is just horrifying. And then we add to that all the way to the world of the things we should do, right? We should lose weight. We should get fit. We should quit smoking. We should get on top of our money stuff. Like, the list of shoulds is endless, isn't it? And it's this weight. And the problem with the shoulds is they really do weigh us down. They are filled with guilt. And often because of this, they result in procrastination or outright avoidance, right? Just, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm avoiding it. I don't want to deal with it. So we end up going nowhere fast, right? And so the end of the year doesn't feel like that managed I talked about before. It doesn't feel like we achieved a lot. It just feels like a whole lot of guilt of things we should have done. So that's why I'm actually going to take you through today this sort of 7 key but pretty simple steps, to be honest, to taking charge of this whole adulting gig, this whole being a grown-up thing, and proactively designing a life full of adventure. Now, that sounds like, Peter, really? If it was that easy, anybody'd do it. Well, the thing is, most things are that easy. We just don't do it, right? And that's the difference. So what I'm going to give you, though, is a structure and some new habits so that you can actually lean into this and start to change your outlook. Now, for those of you who haven't met me, it looks like most of you have, to be honest, but for those who haven't, my name is Peta Diamantidis. Now, my adventure expertise is as somebody who has suffered my own sort of health challenges and other things and had to really shift my mindset after that, when I figured when I was sick that I would get on with things and start living a life of adventure, and I suddenly got back in the hamster cage and didn't do anything at all. And so from that point forward, I have significantly changed my focus and how I go about life. And to be honest, it has massively changed, if nothing else, my Instagram feed. I'm joking, but certainly the adventures that I've experienced. And so what I've done is pull those together to help other people experience the same sort of life, experience the same sort of energy and motivation, and make it a permanent part of your day. Now, the reason I'm actually really excited about this, and the reason I really want to share it with other people, is we are in a rare moment right now. Because when we feel like we can't do things, when things are denied us, like in an environment of isolation, it actually brings you great clarity on the things you really want to do. Most people, if I was to sit them down and say, like, what do you want out of life? Couldn't answer it, right? But if I sat any of you down right now and say, what are the things you're missing because of isolation? There'd be a long list. There'd be a whole lot of things. You go, oh, I wish I could do this. I want to do that. I miss this. So there's this moment we have where suddenly a whole lot of the noise we might have participated before isolation is gone, and only the things we really desire start to pop up and become real. And so we need to take that opportunity to design that life of adventure in the future. Isolation or not, we can design that future and work out what we really want, so that then you can be the action heroes that I know you all can. And basically what I've done, therefore, is built some training for you. It's actually mindset training. And I guess what I'm looking for is to create a whole lot of action heroes that go out leaping into adventure. Now, there's some characteristics of action heroes that we're actually going to be tapping into here and building habits so that you could sort of build those muscles and have that sort of immediate response that's instinctive rather than you have to consciously do it. But this training is designed to get you out of the human hamster wheel, out of that wheel and into your next adventure. Think of this like boot camp, right? Now, nowhere near as painful. You're not going to lose your breath. Um, you're not going to have, a heart attack or anything like that. But we're actually going to get this adulting stuff sorted and get you on more adventures. Now, we will have time for questions at the end, but please feel free, just pop them in the chat or down the bottom. I'll be keeping my eye on that so that we can make sure that we cover any questions you have. And I guess what I would say is if something I say challenges you or you really feel resistant to, ask the question. Ask, say, I just don't know I can do that, Peter. This feels like too big a barrier, because now is the time while you've got me. I'd really take advantage of that and see if we can't break through some of those barriers for you. So let's take a look at this little framework we've got. Step 1. All righty. So in our mindset training, we need to start with a choice. This is a conscious choice about how we're actually going to interact with the people around us. So this isn't a choice internally. This is a choice for the people around us, because the more we can actually make a choice for how we interact in regards to adventure and life with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, the more likely we're then to do it for ourselves, right? So we're going to look outward first, and then we can start with some habits and some things we can do, behavioral change that we can do inwardly. So the choice is, the first choice is we can choose to be a destroyer of dreams. Now, that sounds really aggressive, but unfortunately, most of us are conditioned to be this, right? Now, what this is somebody who, with great love and care, gets, maybe your brother comes up and tells you about a new business opportunity, he's very excited about it, you go, that's great, but how are you going to pay the mortgage? Or maybe your teenager is talking about how they want to be a writer and they want to write the next great fiction book. And you're like, have you got a backup career? Now, the thing about this is we say it with care and love. We really do. But what we're doing is conditioning people to doubt their own dreams, to doubt that adventure they want to leap into. And it actually can be really damaging. And over time, actually can cause people to stop dreaming at all. Every one of you will have had this happen to you. I am confident. And basically what I'm asking you to do here is to decide, are you going to be one of these people, right? Are you going to be one of these people, or are you going to be a wish activist? And a wish activist fiercely believes in everybody's right to dream and to turn those dreams into real life adventures. Now, what that means sometimes is when your brother comes up and tells them about a new business opportunity, you are excited, you're positive, you're giving them ideas, you're sharing, and you hold back on the but. Now, what ends up happening when you do that a lot is that people will then more likely to listen to further information you give them, or ideas or suggestions. But if the first thing you say is but or have you thought of, then A, they're going to ignore it, and B, you're teaching them never to feel that good about a future adventure, never to get outside their comfort zone. So this truly is a choice. And let me tell you a quick story. I did a presentation similar to this about 18 months ago. And I was talking about being a wish activist and destroyers of dreams. And I had a lady come up to me afterwards who's a mum of a teenager in their final year of school. And she said, Peter, I've just realised I've been doing that to my son for the last 2 years. So, all right, her son is an aspiring filmmaker. And as a mum, she's worried that, is that a safe career? Is it something that's going to destroy his soul in terms of being creative and never succeed? And she was describing it to me. And then she was telling me how he'd already won awards. He'd already had short films presented through to national and international awards and won. And I said to her, but he's already succeeding. You don't need to worry about success. That's already happening. And he hasn't even left school yet. And she said, that was the moment I realized that I was systematically being a destroyer of dreams. And he was proving me wrong from day one, and I just wasn't listening. And so now she's leaning into helping him and just making sure he's thinking commercially, and he's thinking about paths and planning, but he's doing it heading deeply into the adventure he wants to follow. So I guess what I'd say is right now, make a choice which you are going to be with the people around you. Are you going to continue to worry, to provide the buts, to provide the negative, be that negative Nelly, or are you going to lean into being a wish activist, being that cheerleader, being that support person? Because what's interesting is as you start doing that, it does become a habit. And then you start doing it for yourself, which is something I'm guessing, if you're like me, you're particularly bad at, is being a cheerleader for ourselves. So step 2, this is a hard one. Step 2 is facing the shoulds in our life. These are all the things that we've been avoiding, the expectations from other people we feel like we've got to meet up to, and even some things that we've been accidentally doing that maybe we shouldn't, right? They're all those things where there's pressure and weight to deliver on. And I mentioned earlier, right, there is a great deal of weight that goes with those shoulds, and it results in procrastination. We avoid it terribly. Oh, is there some echoing? I'm so sorry, Matt. Let me see what I can do about that. Hold on. Not sure what else I can do. Let me just check. I'll continue, and I apologize for that, Matt. It sounds like a great rap song. Well, at least it sounds like rap. I love it. All right, we'll continue, and then I'll look into that after. Thank you for the feedback, because I want to make sure we have good quality sound. So these shoulds are holding us back, right? And we're procrastinating and avoiding. So what I'd like you to do is we are going to do a should audit. We're actually going to face up to these things. We're going to own them. We're going to realize what they are, and then we're going to do something about them. Now, what we're going to build is a big list of them, and then we're going to check whether they're still relevant, whether you should really be worrying about them at all, whether you should care about them. Maybe they're even costing you energy and worry when they could just be completely off your list and you never need to think about them again. So if you like, right now, you can grab a piece of paper, because I'm going to give you some prompts on the next slide of the sort of things you can think about as your shoulds, and then we're going to deal with them in a particular way. Now, once again, you're going to get these slides, so you can do this post the webinar, but I'd really encourage you to have a think as we go through this, because as we go through and continue, I'm going to get you to action some of these, and it'll be so liberating for you the way we're going to action them, I promise. So let's get to these should prompts. So the sort of thing we're doing is, to release some of that weight, we've got to acknowledge the things that we procrastinate about every year. We know they're coming, we know we've got to do them, but we procrastinate. Make a list of those. This might be things like tax returns, could even be dentists, all sorts of things that you feel you should do, but every year you procrastinate. Other things on the list should include regular activities, things you're doing all the time that really great, that you really dread. Now, as an example, one of these came up recently. I was chatting to my cousin, and she has got 2 teenage kids, and they've been really enjoying isolation. They've been doing a lot of board games, and she was dreading going back to all the kids' activities, right? If that's how you feel, like, oh, I just don't want to go back, I'm really dreading it, that needs to go on the should audit list, all right? It's really important we list these down. What about decisions that you've potentially made or will make because of external pressure? What I mean is that society thinks I should do this, or my parents think I should do this, or my friends think I should do this. Any of those things that have just been hanging around, that have been making you feel bad about your progress or your development, that are external pressures. Somebody else is putting these onto you. And then think about some decisions you might have been avoiding. You just don't want to make them. They feel too hard, too difficult, too uninspiring, and you are out and out avoiding the decision, right? And finally, I want you to also add on there any inactive failures. What I mean by that is things you've just not done that make you feel like a failure as an adult, right? So things I just haven't done this, and I feel like if somebody was to measure my grown-upness, I'd lose points for not doing this particular thing. So they're all the things we need to have in our should audit list. And that, I'd really encourage you after this webinar to spend some time honestly putting these down. I'd encourage you also to do this with your partner, even your kids. You might be surprised what they'll say if you ask them what regular activities do they really dread. And I'm not talking about their chores here, but I'm talking about the day-to-day things they do, or that you've maybe enrolled them in, that they actually dread. And it's really worth brainstorming that. Then we're actually going to systematically review each of these items, and you're going to assign one of four things, right? Either you're just going to stop doing it. You've realized by writing it down, there's no earthly reason that you should continue. And so you're just going to stop. That's the first thing. Or you've realized that it's borrowed guilt. This item is just something that you feel you should do or did because you're borrowing that guilt from some external party, society, family, friends, whatever it is, partner. You've borrowed that guilt from somebody else. The third item is something you did or have implemented that you're currently living with that just wasn't your wish. It wasn't your desire. It wasn't your dream. You've just done it because you felt you should. And fourth, there will be some things on that list that are unavoidable. You've got to do them, right? So maybe that's a tax return or things like that. So each of your items on your should audit will get assigned one of these four things. Now, what's exciting is anything that you assign just stop or borrowed guilt to, you could just cross off, right? They're no longer your shoulds. You're either going to stop them or you're going to stop feeling guilty about them. You're not going to worry about this pressure, for this external pressure. You're going to determine your own future. You're not going to let external people define it. So anything with those first two can just come off the list entirely, which is exciting, right? And in fact, I'd love it if any of you can think off the top of your head something that right now you realize you could just stop doing. It's one of those shoulds that you could stop worrying about, or it's an act, something you do in your week that you could just stop doing, or even something you felt pressure to that you've realized, I don't actually have to buy a home to be a grown-up. I can, choose other ways to have my life adventure. So if there's anything that comes to mind, I'd love you to share. But what you end up having left is a list of items that what we're going to do later is turn them from shoulds into something else. We're actually going to shift our mindset so that you can actually knock these off without the procrastination, without the pain and suffering, right? So we're actually going to change our mindset. But the first step is to rip some things off the list altogether. So next step in the process is to recapture the magic. And what I mean by that is we need to rediscover our curiosity and wonder. What happens when we're in the hamster cage is we look down and we stop realizing all the wonder around us. We stop seeing life as a day-to-day adventure. It becomes drudgery. Yeah. And so this is the first key skill of the action hero is curiosity and wonder. And they use and implement it all the time. Now, at its core, this is actually the ability to dream. And some of you may have heard me talk about this before. It's something we've all had inside us. We just need to recapture it. We need to recapture that magic. And as kids, we were really good at this. Kids can wonder about all sorts of things. They can create whole worlds with an empty box. We just need to tap back into that feeling so that dreaming becomes like breathing to us. And we really need to remember what it felt like to have limitless dreams, to not have any limit on what we thought was possible, to believe that we can succeed at anything, to honestly know that if we wanted to, we could become an astronaut. As adults, we actually train ourselves to deny that instantly. The thought might come into your head. You might have watched The Martian or one of those movies. It comes into your head and you instantly deny it. You don't even let it settle. We need to get back to that environment of limitless dreams, of where we can imagine anything is possible, because interestingly, lots of things become possible when you do that. So what we're going to start with is collecting your dreams, right? So we're just going to start collecting them. It's very easy to do. This is not going to be painful at all. So the thing to remember here is that I believe nobody has just one. They don't just have one future adventure in their life. Therefore, you can't possibly have just one dream or aspiration, right? We should have loads of them, big and small, right? And they should be as eclectic as the things we want to experience and the people we have around us. So we actually need to start just opening our mind and writing things down as we come across them. Now, right now is perfect for this because you might see a show on TV and it be talking about, well, particularly travel, which we can't do. Oh, I really want to do that. I've always wanted to. We need to note those things down. Or simple things like getting together with friends or having a party or heading to Victoria or Queensland or South Australia, any of those things that we currently can't do, we need to start collecting these because they are the future adventures you're going to have and that you're going to enjoy. So this is about capturing that youthful exuberance. And it comes down to things you want to do, see your experience, places you want to explore, things you want to learn, maybe things you want to relearn even. Maybe you played piano as a kid and you really want to learn that again. Or challenges you want to give yourself. So this is not in any way, restrained by travel or those type of adventures. I'm talking anything new and experience a moment that you can have and thoroughly enjoy. Those are the sorts of dreams we're looking for here. And what we want to create is a universe of dreams you can pick from. This collection is actually going to become a list of your future adventures because you are going to get to every single one of those eventually, right? An opportunity is going to come past, a chance is going to come past, and you're going to be able to leap at it. So we need to make sure that we don't just get 4 or 5. You need about 70 or 80. And we need to continually be adding to it. So have with you something like this, a notebook, or you could have a Trello board, whatever works for you. And we're going to add items to this list all the time. So why don't I just share some with you actually in mine? Let me see what I've got here just to give you an example. Oh, I've got a few crossed off actually. Prior to the beginning of this year, the 12 months before that was something of an adventure-filled life, I have to admit. So I got to go to Oscillate Wildly for the last time before they closed. That's a restaurant in Glebe. I visited NASA. I went to the Star Wars world at Disneyland. I got to ride the Avatar ride at Disneyland. I got purple streaks in my hair, which is something I've always wanted to do. Now, some of the things I've got in here I haven't done yet. I'd really love to volunteer with the penguins in Phillip Island, do stand-up paddleboarding. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be horrible, but I'm really keen to do it. I'd love to spend Christmas in Spain. It's meant to be quite beautiful. Visit the wildflowers in WA. What else have I got? Skydiving. That's something I've put on the list, but I think I'm going to have to work my way up to. And there's some things around the house that I'd love to do. I'd even love to learn jazz piano. But there's loads and loads of things in here that I've just started noting down. And as you can tell, there's a number of them that I've systematically started knocking off. So this becomes your future adventures book. It's like a journal in reverse because you're writing down what you want to do so that you make sure you do it. So I'd really encourage you to start building your own. Get the book, get the notebook or the Trello board and start adding things to that list, even links to courses you want to do or movies you want to see, big or small, books you want to read. Start doing that now and start building out this list. And what you're doing there is you're creating your future adventurous life. And then what we need to do is actually embrace the chances to live these adventures when they come up. Now, this is interesting. I've had some people go, well, what do you mean, Peter? What do you mean by embrace the chances? Well, what's interesting is a number of you will potentially have had an opportunity to do something really cool that you've always wanted to do. It's come across your path and you've not done it, right? So we've stepped away from that opportunity. We've stepped away from those chances. And the reason for this is that what we haven't done is faced our fears, right? And so often that when we turn those things away, when we decide not to do them, there's an inherent fear. Now, to be fair, this dude here is a perfectly rational fear to have, right? These fears of sharks, of volcanoes, of things like that are about basically ensuring we survive, right? So they're designed to protect us. Those fears are completely rational. They're okay. What I'm talking about is facing the fears that are driven by ego. Now, this is a fear of embarrassment, a fear of failure, of looking ridiculous, or of being judged. Yeah. And these fears are the single biggest reason each of us miss out on life's incredible moments, right? Generally, it is not due to funding. It's not due to because they're rare. It's due to this ego-led fears. Yeah. And what's interesting is these moments we deny ourselves could become the adventures we talk about again and again and again. So I've shared here one of mine. These photos are from much earlier in the year. and my husband and I went to the island of Kauai in Hawaii, and this was a Zodiac boat adventure on the ocean. As you can see on the left there's some beautiful dolphins that we witnessed, whales and a baby whale. And then when we came to this beautiful spot on the top right there, we've got the gorgeous background behind us. It's sort of that Jurassic Park sort of background, just gorgeous. They said, "Oh, we'll take your photo on the front of the boat." And there was a group of us on the boat. We're like, fantastic. So we went and got our photo taken. And then they said, right, and what we're going to do is take your photo as you're jumping off the Zodiac boat. Now, the Zodiacs go what feels like 200 kilometers an hour. This thing is particularly unstable, but it's safe, right? And my instinctive reaction to them saying, "And we're going to take your photo as you jump off," was a hell no. Right? There is no way I'm jumping off this thing. Not because I didn't feel safe, because I didn't want to look stupid. The boat was full, aside from us, of a whole lot of 20-somethings. They were in their bikinis, the blokes were in their board shorts and had their six-packs, and here we were in our mid-40s, being the only ones that were nearly double their age. And I just got to the point, I just didn't want to be judged, I didn't want to be embarrassed. And then I realised what an idiotic reason not to do something. We now have photos of us, and they took those burst photos. So we've got these photos of us leaping off the boat, looking completely uncoordinated, I might add, but having these grins on our face as we leapt into that gorgeous water, floated and paddled around, and then got back in. And I would have missed out on that moment because I would have said, no way, I'm not going to do it, because I was embarrassed. And what's crazy is we get back in the boat and a whole lot of the 20-somethings high-fived us for doing it. So this is about really acknowledging the fact that we need to get out of our comfort zone. We need to recognize that the best magic, the best adventures happen in a place where we're going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. And interestingly, this is not easy to do, and it's something you've got to consciously lean into, because I also nearly didn't share this photo, right? Because I'm in a swimsuit, I'm jumping off, I look like a dork. But once again, what am I afraid of? Yeah. Why wouldn't I share this photo? Why wouldn't I celebrate an amazing moment that Nick and I will remember forever? And in fact, if we ever go back to Kauai, we will definitely do again. So we need to face these ego-led fears. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to build our courage muscle, right? We're going to get better at this. And I've got some steps you can take to help you do this. So first thing is, when you encounter a choice, don't pick the safe one. Now, generally in life and in your day-to-day, there's going to be the comfortable choice, the one you know, the one you understand, and then there's going to be the slightly riskier, maybe a bit more unusual, maybe a bit more out there choice. Once in a while, just start to pick the riskier choice. Yeah, just lean into it. And what it does is actually, that's where the fun, and that's where we learn the most is. So once in a while, just don't pick the safe choice when you're given two options. And then on a regular basis, just take a different route home, whether you're walking, whether you're driving, maybe you're on your bike, just take a different route. And what happens when you do that is you become aware of a whole extra world that's out there. Yeah, a whole different experience that you can have. And it starts to open our mind to more options, to more adventures, and to more opportunities, and to realize, and it's a small practice at getting out of our comfort zone, because safety is a habit, right? We go back into the comfortable, right? So we need to train ourselves to go, well, this wasn't so bad. It's just a different route home. What was I worried about? Yeah. So it's a great way to start to build that. The next thing you could do is, maybe the next time you're thinking of going to a restaurant or buying something new at the shops, instead of, thinking really carefully between two options, flip a coin and just let the coin decide. Now, the truth is we overthink lots of these decisions, because we've probably narrowed it down to two really awesome, but awesome options. But if you can just go, look, I've got these two awesome options, I'm just going to flick the coin and let it decide, then once again, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. Yeah, you're letting something else decide, and you're going to enjoy it anyway. Oh, here we go. Ashley's just put in a comment. Thank you for sharing, Ashley. You try that exercise, walking a different day with the dogs, right? And it is a bit weird. You're like, oh, I don't know what's around that corner. Those people, I've never seen them before, right? It is a bit uncomfortable, because you do get in these sort of pathways, right, where we do the same things. We go to the same cafe, we go to the same restaurant when we go out. We watch the same TV shows, all that sort of stuff. And it is hard, but push through because it is fun and you discover really cool things that are literally around the corner. So thank you for sharing that, Ashley. I completely agree with you. The next one is just say yes more often. And I'm not talking about, hey, do you want to move to Iceland? Type of yes. That probably needs a little bit more thought. What I'm talking about is somebody says, oh, do you want to go rock climbing? And your instinct is, really? Well, if it's something you think you're capable of, just say yes more often. We've got to build this muscle, this courage, this resilience to just give things a try, to just see what they're like, because it's the only way you're going to discover your next great adventure. It's when you say yes and you do something you haven't already done. So just get in a habit, and you could even do this with your partner. You could say, all right, new policy, we need to say yes more often. And when something comes to you, maybe a couple come and go, hey, do you want to go and try this new green-only food restaurant? Okay, right? And you never know what you may discover. Now, next, do what your ego is afraid of, right? So when something comes, like me jumping off that boat, right? When something comes to you, comes across your way, an opportunity or an occurrence or a moment, and your instinct is to go, there's no way I'm going to do that, then honestly assess what you're scared of. Is it a rational fear? Is it something that anybody should be afraid of, or is it your ego? And if it's your ego, then just lean in. Say, anything I'm afraid of, I'm actually going to do, right? Instinctively. And I've actually started training myself to do that. If somebody says, oh, we really want you to do this, and it's a new thing, say in business or an opportunity, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Well, then I've trained myself, well, I've got to do it. You've got to lean in. You've got to work out how you can pull it off. You've got to work out how you can lean into that adventure. So this is about conquering that fear, right? And it's not that it goes away. I'm not suggesting the fear goes away. You just get better at handling it. It's about building resilience, yeah? And it's really powerful. And finally, I want to actually give you the opportunity to take part in a challenge that we've developed. So we've got a private Facebook group called the Adventure Club Room. And this is sort of where action heroes like you guys can all hang out and sort of become more adventurous, lean in, and live life like an action hero. And one of the things we've got in there is a weekly courage over comfort experiment. And this is just where we use these cards, I'm really bad at that, best self cards. And every week there's going to be something on there that we all commit to doing. Now, there's going to be some of those things you're like, nah, I don't need to do that, or I'm not interested, but it'll just push you out of your comfort zone. And often they're quite dorky. One week we all had to pick a song we like to sing at the top of our lungs, play it in the car, wind down the window and just drive off. Yeah. So none of these things are big things, but they are getting us out of our comfort zone and stretching us so that we can have more fun and take more adventures. So if you'd like to do that, I'll actually share the link to it right near the end. In fact, I think let's test that out now. Let's see if this works now. If you can let me know if there's an offer that pops up that you can see to actually join us in the Adventure Club Room. If you click on the link, then that'll hopefully take you to the Facebook page. I'll be curious if that works. I'll leave that up there, and then you can let me know if it works and if it clicks through. So, good work. I'm glad it appeared. Thank you for letting me know. All right. So what we're doing is we're building that courage muscle. We're leaning in, we're getting out of our comfort zone, yeah? So this is part of what we're trying to build. And then the next step, step 5 is killing that procrastination that just gets in the way. That means we actually are so focused on avoiding the things we should do that we just don't do anything, adventures included, right? So this actually involves, first step, connecting needs to adventures. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, remember that list you made at the beginning, right? The should audit list. There's going to be some things left on there. And they still feel like shoulds. They still feel like chores. But if we can connect them to a future adventure, then they become needs. Then they become things you really want to get done, because if you get them done, you're going to be able to go on that adventure. Right? Now, this is going to take a little bit of creativity and practice, but if you can connect every one of your chores to a future adventure, then you are dragging them along for the ride, right? You're giving them momentum and energy, and suddenly it makes them a whole lot easier to start and to complete. So this is a process of going through your future adventure list and seeing if that list of shoulds can be connected to them. So it's a task you can do in the future, but I'd really encourage you to work through it, because this is how we motivate ourselves. It isn't just by going, oh, now I'm motivated. That's not real, right? It's about connecting it to something that we really want, and then we get it done. Now, an example could be tax returns, right? It's a chore, right? But we've got to do it every year. Well, if, like me, you've got a new car as one of your future adventures, a Mustang, by the way, then it would make sense to connect those two adventures, because if you've got to actually get a car loan to buy that car, then they're going to want some pay slips that are potentially going to want your tax returns. So you're going to want to knock them off, otherwise it's going to hold up your car, right? So connect these things together, right? So that you can make sure that you get on top of it. And you can actually do this with the smallest of things. The dentist. Well, if I don't go to the dentist, then that first international holiday I'm going to take, if things go wrong with my teeth, then it's going to ruin the whole holiday. So connect these two things. So how can you ensure that those chores don't get in the way of your future adventures, and note those things down? And so that's the first step, connecting these chores, these needs we've now created. They're no longer shoulds, they're needs, to your adventures. And then have a ta-da jar. Now, a ta-da jar is just a glass, or it can be any sort of made of anything, but it's a jar that every time you complete one of these chores, these needs, you celebrate it by writing it down and putting it in the jar. Now, this is a bit of a different approach, because what we've done is celebrated the accomplishment as well as your adventures. Because what I'd also like you to do is, when you have a great adventure during the year, big or small, either a little printout of a photo or a note, you're going to pop it in the ta-da jar too. And you collect them through the year. And these can be little things, big things. They could be a moment you had you loved. It could be a card you remember to send somebody. Whatever it is, you note them down and you pop it in your ta-da jar. And then on the 1st of January next year, you tip up the jar and you relive your year. You get to relive all those wonderful adventures you had and relive all the things you got done. And that's going to motivate you for the next year to do the same thing, right? So I'd really encourage you to get a ta-da jar. It can sit on your bedside table. It can sit on your desk of your home office, which is where mine is. Whatever you need, wherever you need that you'll end up doing it, then it's good if it's tactile. Just pop them in and enjoy them and celebrate them, right? So we really need to acknowledge that this adulting stuff does suck. So we need to celebrate it when we get it done, right? Give ourselves a little high five, become our own wish activists. So next step, and we're getting there, we've only got 2 more steps left, is to get some zaptitude. Now, one of the things that gets in the way of our ability to just sort of leap at the chance of an adventure when it crosses our paths is funding, to be honest. And that happens a lot. Like, oh, I just got this great adventure to go on this once-of-a-lifetime trip, and I don't have the money, right? And it's not unusual. That's very common. Moolah, cash, dough, whatever you call it. After our ego, it is the next biggest barrier to heading out on wonderful adventures and having these wonderful moments. And interestingly is our failures here often appear directly on our should audit list, right? So often they're directly connected. There'll be something about paying off the credit card maybe, or getting rid of that loan, or saving a bit of money, right? They're often shoulds that people have. And unfortunately, leaving them on the should list means that we don't have the money to take that opportunity when it crosses our path. So we need to get some zaptitude. Now, zaptitude is the ability and momentum to get on top of your money stuff, right? And it's a bit of gumption. And what we're going to do is build an adventure fund. How cool does that sound? I mean, I'm excited myself. Now, rather than focus on the shoulds, rather than focus on paying off the credit, all these things, we're going to change our focus to building an adventure fund, right? Now, you don't know what it's going to be used for, right? So you don't necessarily build it for that one adventure. This is a fund that's going to exist forever that you're going to put money in to use for daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, once-in-a-lifetime adventures as they come up, right? And you're going to put them away so that when that awesome opportunity crosses your path, you can leap and you can cross something off out of your book, yeah? So what I would say, though, is what's good about an adventure fund is you can also have a little minimum balance in there, an amount that it never gets below, that's your reserve. It's instead of your rainy day account, you just have a reserve level in your adventure fund should something go wrong. Should you need some cash? Should there be, a once-off that you've got to deal with, something happens that you've got to pay for. So it's actually a great way to build a buffer in your cash flow without it being a rainy day account that you never plan to use, which is completely uninspiring. Yeah, so you're just going to have a minimum balance in there at all times that's for the just in cases, for the future. So by switching this thinking, by going, all right, I'm going to build an adventure fund. What are the things I've got to get done to build that? You'll find it changes your attitude to money and finance, and it gets rid of that procrastination. So the first way to build an adventure fund is simply to spend less than you earn. The multiple degrees in finance I have and all the years I've been in the industry, if I was to give somebody a tip that would change their life, this would be it. Spend less than you earn. Now, the first step to that is actually working out how much you spend. So if you haven't done it yet, I'd encourage you to use one of the apps that sort of take your feed and do, a total calculation of how much is going out of what you earn on a, weekly, monthly basis, and really take advantage of those. And if you're struggling, then do reach out because we can help you with that. But just work out how much you're spending and then see how you can start going about spending less than you earn. And the next step is to stop the bill surprises. If there's anything that's going to destroy an adventure fund is when a big bill comes that you weren't ready for. It's one that happens annually. It's going to be there, but you simply weren't ready, right? So we need to be ready for those surprises. And that means having your accounts set up so that you are putting money away for the bills are coming. There's a whole structure you can use to do that will just take that pressure off. You will never have to ask yourself again, can I afford that? Because the whole thing is set up so you know what you can afford by the amount of money in that particular account. So we're actually going to be pulling something together to help people with that. It'll be a simple little thing that'll just step you through getting that structure right so that you can never have one of these bill surprises where it just wipes you out completely. So if you're interested in that, the poll is going to pop up later, and just note it down as something that you'd like us to reach out to because we'll be happy to help you out with that. So we're going to get some Zaptitude. We're going to spend less than we earn, right? And we're going to do that by making sure we've got all the money stuff just sorted. Just get it sorted so we can be ready to leap. And yes, Matt, the recording will be available. So and you've still got that echoing. I'm so sorry for that. Yes, the recording will be available. Don't you worry. And it'll come out immediately post this via email. So feel free, if it's driving you nuts, to pop out and then listen later. I completely understand, sir. So the last step is getting ready to leap. So this is about, leaning into your new life of adventure and actually starting to turn some of these dreams into real life adventures. And the first step is picking your starting 5. These are your first 5 out of your book, your first 5 that you're going to actually start implementing. You're going to take a look at how much they cost. You're going to take a look at what are the barriers, and you're going to work through them. Now, what I want to make sure you do is don't put things on there that you feel you should do. These are dreams. These are adventures. The word should never appear. Yeah. Never say it again. So I'd really encourage you to lean in. If they're a little bit weird, if they're a bit unusual, if they're like having purple streaks in your hair, that's great. The weirder the better. These are your first 5 dreams that you're going to turn into adventures, and they should feel exciting and they should feel really fun, right? And then I'd love you to share those with the people you care about. So whether it's family or friends, even your colleagues, by putting them out into the universe, by daring to declare, then what happens is those opportunities, those chances are more likely to come across your path because more people will know you've always wanted to visit NASA for a behind-the-scenes tour, or you want to learn jazz piano, but you don't know who to go to for that. And somebody will happen to mention that their cousin does that and they happen to live around the corner, and why don't we connect you guys? So dare to declare your starting 5, put it out there, and let your wish activists motivate you and drive you to head out on these adventures and really build that future life of adventure. So Here's our mindset training in total. We're going to make a choice about whether we're dream destroyers or wish activists. I hope that choice is obvious. Face those shoulds, do that audit, sit down with your partner, run through all the things that you're just avoiding and you hate, and see what you can do about them and assign them to those different categories. Recapture that magic by building your dream list, your future adventure list, and continually adding to it. Embrace chances as they come, really build that courage muscle and lean into it, and just learn to live outside your comfort zone. Kill your procrastination by connecting those shoulds to your adventures and making them interwoven so that one has to happen before the other can happen. And get some zaptitude, get that money stuff happening, get that adventure fun happening, and then start choosing some adventures. I mean, it's so exciting what you can then start doing. And I feel like it's going to feel completely different in isolation if we start working through these things, because the minute we're out, we're going to be going for it, right? We're going to be leaning in and really enjoying ourselves. So your mission, should you choose to accept it from today, is to start your training. Finish your should audit you might have started today in the webinar and really fill it out. Kickstart that future adventures list. If you're struggling to get 70 or 80 on your list, then head into the Adventure Club room and we'll be doing a 30-day challenge to really build out that list so it starts to look really meaty. Take part in the Courage Over Comfort experiment that we've got going on there on a weekly basis. Get a Tadaja. Start popping things in there that you're doing or experiencing or that you've got done and that you've achieved. And then lean into building an adventure fund, because this will be the thing that will mean you can absolutely rise above the shoulds. You will no longer feel the weight of them, and you can have a life of absolutely no regrets. You will have chosen things you want to do and you will have got them done. Now, we're actually running well on time, so I'm actually going to pop up the poll now, but I'm happy to answer any question, and please excuse me as I try to work this technology. Is the poll showing? I'm wondering. If you can let me know, can you click on a poll? Can you see one right now? If somebody can let me know. I don't want to edit it. Interesting. Save. Wonder if I do that and then that. Interesting. Well, we've got some answers though, which is interesting. I'll have to look into that. Sheila, you are so helpful. Thank you. If you click on the polls tab, it shows. So if you guys might have a tab that you can then show. Maybe it's on the left or right, and then it shows the poll. Ashley's found it. Thank you, Sheila. You are a legend. Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions about this or has something that might be a dream or even a should that they're avoiding that they wanted to talk through, then please yell out, wonderful, Megan. Thank you for letting me know. That's great. Aside from that, we will be sending out the recording, which will be available for 72 hours. We'll also be providing a PDF of the slides. And then over time, we'll actually be doing more content on things like this. So if anything in that poll does appeal, could just be a blog post we write, or it could be another webinar or anything like that, then please let me know. And if you think this sort of session might be interesting for maybe a group you're a part of, maybe work or anything like that, then I'd love to hear about it. But if you don't have any questions, if we are all done and all finished, then thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping that going forward, you're going to feel more like these two kids here. You're really going to start leaning in and being the action hero that I know you are. And I can't wait. Please connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. I would love to hear about an adventure you've decided to head out on. So please share. Thank you so much for your time and have a lovely rest of your week. See ya. Bye.